What is going on, baseball fans? Welcome to Baseball as Intended, episode 12. This is your host, Yeyo, alongside Jon, for our last episode of the predictions, our last divisions as we made our way to the National League East. Jon, are you ready to wrap this up?
I'm ready, man. I've enjoyed all of them. The last one we did was AL East, which was awesome. Your team is in the AL East, Red Sox, obviously. Mine, Mets, is in the NL East. I've got some butterflies. We're doing this one also the night before opening day, uh, Christmas Eve, essentially. We talked about it a little bit before. Uh, I'm ready, man. Bring it on. Probably gonna go 5 for 5 on my predictions here.
Well, you seem very excited, so let's start. Let's start talking about the Braves, right? The Atlanta Braves won
Yeah.
100. The Atlanta Braves won 101 games last year, and their over/under for this year is 96 and a half. And the Braves, we know that their team is going to be very similar because they have every single guy signed long term, what it feels like long term forever. They're going to have the same team, the same lineup for the rest of history. But what do you have for the Braves?
Braves won 101 last year, tied with the Mets. I look at the over-unders, and this will be a trend. Everyone kind of, when you look at the Vegas numbers, they think, well, they're going to regress back to about 96 games. I struggle with it. I don't really see a reason why. I have the Braves going under. Pains me to say it. I wish it weren't true. I think a lot of those wins may
Wait,
be
did you
coming
say
against the
under
Mets.
or over?
No, they're going over.
Oh,
What did
okay.
I say?
You said under and then
They're
started saying they're just better.
That's my subconscious. I really want them to go under. Uh, the Braves are going over. They're like you said, it's the same team. They lost Dansby, and one of the few guys that they don't have, like you said, locked up to some contract that we can't understand how they pull it off. They've done a great job signing all these young guys early. Dansby, I do think right now is a loss because there was a little bit of a competition for the shortstop job. I thought Vaughn Grisham was going to get it. I was impressed with him last year. I'm a little bit surprised. I think a lot of people are surprised that he got, he's going to start the year, I believe, in the minors, not even off the bench. He's going to be playing down in the minors. Orlando Arcia, he'll be the weak spot on that absolutely loaded team. They Acuna, I am looking to see, not because I think the Braves are going to struggle without Acuna, being a top five player in the game, but because I want to see him kind of get back to that. He showed us some flashes of really, really being great. And then there's been a little bit of some rocky ground, the injury. I think he come back fully healthy, and I mean, it's going to be dominant. Then you throw in their rotation, Max Fried, Kyle Wright, Spencer Strider came out of nowhere, Quadzilla. His legs are the size of tree trunks. He doesn't even eat meat. I don't know how it's possible. The Braves are just going to just keep rolling. I see them going over. I don't want to spoil it because we always go over it, but I think they win the division. I think they're the favorites going in for a reason, and there's no reason. The Braves never choke, right? The Braves never really underperform, so I don't see any reason. I think 98, 99 wins. They're potentially chasing 100 wins this year.
I actually think they might go over the 101 that they had last year.
Oh boy.
I'm sorry. Couple reasons for it, right? So Acuna, he's been hurt, right? It feels like he wasn't 100% coming off the knee
Yep.
injury. Maybe now he's going to be 100%. That's a 30-30 year, maybe even 40-40. He's been close to it. The WBC, you showed he was struggling at first, and then he got going. And you saw like he got his feet under it. He looks like he's ready. Michael Harris, I mean, is a stud. He's only
Looks
gonna get
incredible.
better. He's only gonna get better. They have two top 10 catchers in Sean Murphy and Travis Darnell. I don't know what you do with that, but they have two top 10 catchers. They're just deep. They're just deep all around at every single position. I have Spencer Strider as a dark horse. I don't know if it's a dark horse after the year he had last
No,
year as a
yeah.
rookie campaign, but I have him as a dark horse in the Cy Young race. I think he's a stud. He's gonna, close to 200 innings, 200 plus strikeouts as well. So he's very good. He's very good. Max Fried is very good as well. Kind of like a superstar that not everybody knows about. They're just stacked. I think Matt Olson is perfect fit for them. It's just top to bottom. Only question mark might be the bullpen. I feel like they always kind of figure it out as well. Kenley Jansen is gone, but you brought in a couple guys, Joe Jimenez, Nick Anderson, a little bit of a veteran guy there. But other than that, they're just gonna be there every single year. What it feels like, obviously, health. If Acuna for some reason he does get hurt again, then that's a problem. Even though they already showed that they can literally win without him. But you need Acuna there. He's kind of like that spark at the top of the lineup. He's one of the most exciting baseball players in the league. So you want that for as a selfish fan here, me just baseball fan. But yeah, they're just very good top to bottom, and they're just gonna be good forever.
They are, and they're so dangerous in the sense of how they run their organization because they're willing to spend a little bit of money, right? They let Freeman go, and a lot of Braves pay. I mean, that was a weird story in general. We're like, oh, they didn't pay him, but they locked up all these young guys, and then you look just at last year, Michael Harris came out of nowhere. Spencer Strider came out of nowhere. You've already got Acuna locked up. You've got Ozzy Albies, who we haven't even mentioned. And then, like we said, Vaughn Grisham was relatively impressive last year. He probably ends up in the big leagues again. They keep pulling all these guys, and to piggyback off you in the bullpen, they brought Rafael Iglesias over last year, and he's going to be with the team this year. And we said it as soon as they got him. His ERA last year wasn't where it needed to be. And we kind of said, well, he's going to end up slotting in perfectly as a setup guy in Atlanta. And that's exactly what he did. He's probably going to give him another really big year, probably close out some games this year. It's disgusting.
You sound annoyed. You sound annoyed.
Because I can't even find a way to tell myself, that they're not going to really be good.
Okay,
they're a great team.
So let me ask you this, and we've talked about how they do it, right? Like they just keep signing players for long term. They have Acuna signed long term, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Michael Harris, Ozzy Albies. Is that we've already seen other teams starting to do that, right? Like we saw the Diamondbacks give Carroll a big contract already, over $100 million. The Pirates tried to do it with Brian Reynolds, but they kind of they kind of you got to know how to do it. But is this we're going to start seeing this in the big leagues, right? Like this is the new, our team's going to try to do it like, hey, I'll give you $100 million. You're 22, you're 23, you're unproven. You're just coming off a very good year. Players is a win for the players because, hey, what if something happens? I got my $100 million. And for the organization, if he becomes what you think he can become, you got him cheap, right? Like we're going to start seeing this more.
I think we're going to start seeing it. And one of the reasons I think is with the analytics, the teams feel very confident in who a player is. With a very small sample size, because now they've seen him more in the minors with the analytics. They kind of feel like this is what this person is capable of. So I think we will see it. But I will say it's going to blow up for somebody at some point, right? It's not going to work every time. It feels like it's worked out pretty good for the Braves. Feels like it's worked out for some other teams. But it's going to end up, and I don't think it'll be the case either, but like Corbin Carroll, like you said, some team, or maybe it happens in a year where a bunch of teams do it, and then it just doesn't work out. And we see that around the leagues. People see, well, that didn't work out great. I'm a little hesitant maybe to do that now. So I think these things are a little bit like a pendulum. Sometimes you don't want to give the big contracts to the free agents. Sometimes you want to sign the guys young. Right now, it's the way to go about it. The Braves have laid out the blueprint. Someone's going to try and copy them, and it's not going to go well at some point.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's only a matter of time before it kind of backfires. But it's also like I think teams will do it with one or two players. I don't think every team will be willing to do it with 6 and 7 players like the Braves are doing. So that's kind of like the risk where obviously they haven't done it every. It's not like everyone in the same year. They did Albies Ferris and then Acuna, and then it feels like every year. So, by the time some contracts are going out, others are still kind of like coming in the middle of it. So I mean, if I'm a Braves fan, I'm happy, right? Like you can buy a jersey and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, these guys are there. But you make a good point because they're not all at the same year, but there's a lot of overlap, right? The Braves would be in a very different spot if these young contracts didn't pan out. It's a very different spot because they're great contracts, but they have a lot of money invested in these guys. But it has worked out.
Yeah.
It has worked out terrifically, and I expect it to continue to work out this year.
And you sounded very sad. But let's talk
I mean,
about your Mets. Let's talk about your New York Mets because they won 101 games last year. Their over-under for this year is 94 and a half. Still a very high number. I'll let you just take it away. Just take it away. This is your team.
I'm a little scared, Yayo. A little bit of that old Mets fear is starting to creep back in.
Are you scared
And
because the trumpets may be like a sad trumpets this year instead of the happy
they're
trumpets?
playing taps, like the so I'm going over. There's no doubt about this. The Mets are going over.
I, th-
Uh,
I thought you just said you're kind of sad or worried, but
I'm gonna give you the good. So I actually like that DeGrom was let go because they replaced him with Verlander. I like that trade. I'll take that. DeGrom has been great for the Mets for so long. He's one of the few players that I'll root for him forever. I wish him well in the future. Verlander has looked terrific. I really like that they brought in Senga from Japan. I think he's going to be the number 3 there in that rotation is how it should pan out. He may be a very, very good number 3. You got Quintana at number 4. The Mets rotation is, I think, arguably should be one of the best in baseball. Max Scherzer scares me a little bit because we've been putting our blinders on and acting like he hasn't fallen off a cliff kind of in September and October, but he had. It looked like the innings catch up to him. I don't know if they necessarily do anything to monitor that. Last year he had an injury where you thought, okay, he's going to be more rested for the playoffs. And maybe it's a coincidence, but he hasn't looked great down the stretch. I think he's still very good, but it's not necessarily the 1-2 punch, that you can feel 100% confident. But I love Verlander, leading it off. The lineup, I think, is still going to rake. Didn't get, obviously, Correa, but Lindor took a big step last year. Nimmo looks to have survived his injury scare. I think the lineup is kind of what we expect from last year, which was very, very good. The team, there were a lot of changes within it, but I think it ends up being pretty similar as far as good. Everything kind of cancels itself out, and I'm scared because Edwin is gone. And that's actually a big blow. And the realistic Mets fan in me should say, hey, you ended up getting David Robertson, which is great. He still looks like he has something in the tank. He has closer experience, but that is a big blow. And so we'll see. I think they go over, but I think they lose the division by a couple games there to the Braves. I don't necessarily know that it's all that close. Like you said, you could see the Braves winning over 101. I could too. The Mets could be at 95, 96.
I think for the Mets, they had a good offseason. It could have been better if that Correa deal would have gone through, but they spent a lot of money, but in their own guys as well, right? Like we saw the Edwin Diaz deal, we saw the Brandon Nimmo deal, which I thought it was a little bit of an overpay there, but you had to pay a center fielder and for him to stay there. Justin Verlander coming to one of his best seasons. Like, can he repeat that? Right? Like, I don't know if he can repeat it. He's what, 40? At some point that's gonna end. I have them going over, but as I start talking about the Mets, I kind of want to go under.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
And here's why. So, like I mentioned, Justin Verlander is 40. I don't expect him to have the same year he had. A sub-2 ERA with, 175 innings. I just can't see it. Maybe, I don't know, 2.5, 3 ERA, still solid. Not $45 million a year solid, but still solid. He's a 40-year-old. You got Max Scherzer, so I was looking at his baseball reference page, and it might scare you. So from 2011 on until, wait, where is it? Okay, so from 2010 on until 2018, he threw over 187 innings every year, including 6 straight years of over 200 innings. He hasn't gone over 180 since 2019. Is he done? Like you mentioned, at the end of the year, you need them. Like, that's in the middle of the playoff run. Don't look at me that way. Don't get mad at me. I'm just thinking there's still question marks.
Is he done?
No, I'm not saying I'm not saying he's done. I'm saying he's definitely past his prime. You need innings. You're gonna need him if you want to make a playoff push. You're gonna need him in September and October. And you said it yourself, where at the end of the year he's kind of like gone down, a little bit of injury. So what are you going to do? Are you just going to hold him back in May, June, and July and let him go out in August, September, October? So there's some question marks there. With it is two older guys. I don't want to say super old, but older guys.
Yeah.
So there's still some question marks there. They did the opposite of they're doing the opposite of what the Braves are doing, right? Like
I was just gonna say that.
they're signing guys for like 1 or 2, 3 year like short term investments and not long term as much. Obviously Nemo had a little bit of a longer deal, same with Edwin, but
Right.
with the pitchers, again, they're 37, 38, 40-year-old. You don't want to give them too long of a contract. But I don't know. Their offense is still very good, though. It's still good. You got Marte. He's going to be solid. You know what you got from him. Another year, Francisco Lindor in New York. Pete Alonso is going to hit 35, 40 bombs every year. That's just what he does. But 94.5 is still a big number. And I think that Edwin Diaz thing, and I know he kind of wants to come back towards the end of the year, but it might be too late for them to go over 94.5. I
Okay.
still think they're going to be around 90, 92. Like, they're still a very good team. I just think 94.5 is a very high number. And again, last year, a lot of things went their way.
So I actually, as you started to talk, my confidence started to grow.
Okay.
To be honest with you, and just thinking about it, because the offense really is really, really good. We focused a lot on the pitching, and I think the big question on the pitching is Scherzer towards the end of the year, right? But when you look at it, it's still Verlander, Scherzer, Senga, Quintana, maybe Carrasco at 5. But the offense is good enough, I think, to cruise through in the sense of when they play bad teams, they're winning 2 out of 3 games. 4-game series, I think a lot of the times they're winning 3 out of 4. Starling Marte was terrific for the Mets last year. Jeff McNeil was terrific in that lineup where all you're asking him to do is get on base and, that sort of thing. He was terrific. Third base, they have Brett Beatty now, who's going to kind of platoon with Eduardo Escobar, depending on the pitching matchups. It is very, very deep. So I actually think that offense, in a weird way, can carry the pitching if needed at certain times throughout the year, to where I don't see. I mean, it is very close, right? 94.5. That's a coin flip. You can never say for sure a team's going over or under that. But I think that offense maybe gets a little overshadowed at times because they just signed Verlander, Senga, Scherzer. But I feel good about it. I think they coast. I think they score a lot of runs.
And I think it was last year where they started so good, right? And they were cruising. And then the last couple months, here comes the Mets, right? LOL Mets, LOL Mets. And that's when they started going down. They didn't end up winning the division. I think the tiebreaker or whatever it was. So I don't know. Is that going to transfer over to this year? I think that, again, that Edwin Diaz is a big one. They do have, like you mentioned, I do agree that offense can carry pitching if needed, but the pitching on paper is very good. We're talking about this year. We're not talking about the future.
Yeah.
I just don't know if Verlander can do it again as good as what he was last year. And Scherzer kind of worries me. Again, it's been kind of trending down the last few years, and Father Time is undefeated, and we've heard that phrase for the longest time, and it's true.
It is, and that's why, as a Mets fan, and like we were talking about the contracts, I love that Scherzer and Verlander are on these short, high-dollar deals, right? Nimmo, we thought he overpaid a little bit, but he's a young guy. You can do that. Marte, just a couple years, like a good contract. Lindor's the young guy. You give him a lot of the money. Steve Cohen spent a lot of money, but I don't necessarily think that it's been recklessly. He's gonna
spend next year. That's when he really wants to spend, because he wanted to go after Machado. He's staying in San Diego, but Ohtani, I feel like he's going to give Ohtani a blank check, which may mean $550 million. I don't know.
It's not my money. Go get him.
I don't want to get you too excited either. But I'm just saying, it's good to have an owner like that. So even though on paper may be still good, right? But yeah, we have these guys for short term. Don't worry about it. They're going to keep signing guys for long term. They're going to be, as long as he's the head of that team, he's still going to be competing.
Yeah, it's flexibility in a way, exactly. To be honest, to have that $80 million with those two guys coming off at some point. So.
Yeah. Good stuff for the Mets. We'll see. I I don't know if I picked over under there, but I think I did go under slightly. I don't know, very close. Let's talk about the National League champions, Philadelphia Phillies. They ended up winning 87 games last year. Their over under is at 89 and a half. So obviously they made it to the World Series because they had the hottest month in what it feels like the history of baseball. Everything went right for them, and they do have a very good team, and they made what many considered the biggest free agent acquisition of the offseason in Trey Turner. And Mr. Captain America himself, because he was carrying the Team USA, one of the coolest moments in baseball. So, what do you think about the Phillies, right? There's still some question marks. Rhys Hoskins just went down for the entire year in spring training, knee injury, non-contact, sucks. Bryce Harper played with a UCL or something, and it didn't bother him one bit. But he's going to be out for the first couple months of the season. That's kind of like a couple blows there for Philly, but they have a lot of depth in pitching.
I don't quite know if this works out mathematically, but I'm hoping that with the schedules and less division games, 3 teams in a division can be over 90 wins, because I got the Phillies going over as well. Somehow they've been a little bit forgotten in a way, and they're a team that got hot at the end of the year. Very, very hot. They fired Girardi. I'm not going to blame him, but as soon as they fired him, they started absolutely rolling. They went on that terrific run. And what did they do this offseason? They went ahead and signed Trey Turner, who has just been incredible. They also, you look at some of their additions and subtractions like we like to do. They got rid of Noah Syndergaard, but they replaced him with Taijuan Walker, who Syndergaard's been very, very inconsistent. Yep. I saw Walker with the Mets, and I'm not going to make him sound like something that he's not, but he's a very, very solid guy to fill out that rotation. I think that's a slight upgrade for them. Harper, you're going to have to survive a little bit without him, but he's going to come back and he's going to keep doing what he does. You pair him with, Schwarber and Real Muto. I think it's an incredible team, and that's not even getting to the rotation where you have Nola, Suarez, Wheeler, and like we said, then there's Walker, and then whoever they want to, take the 5 spot there. Bullpen's pretty decent, not terrific, but I think they've been a little bit forgotten. I put the Phillies right there with the Mets, to be honest with you. I don't know that there's too much splitting them. Maybe it hurts them a little bit with Harper being out. Obviously, the Rhys Hoskins thing is a blow. That's a very last-minute kind of, thing you have to account for in the season. There's not really much they can do about it now as far as getting someone to fill that gap. But I think they're a really good team. I think they're a little bit over 90 games, and I think they can just do the same thing they did last year, to be honest with you. That lineup is terrifying.
Yeah, I think the Trey Turner addition, Trey Turner is a superstar. That's the best addition they could have had. It is 2 massive blows with Bryce Harper being out, their MVP. He's going to be out a couple months. The Rhys Hoskins is a big one. He had one of the coolest moments in postseason with the bat slam or whatever with a big home run.
Yeah, the bat
slammed it. So that was cool. I think they go under, and I think they go under because of that. It's 2 big losses. They did add Trey Turner again, great addition. I don't know if Kyle Schwarber can hit 46 home runs again, right? I expect a little bit of a maybe 38. Right. It's still, but a little bit of a step back. They're just gonna need Castellanos to step it up. He had a very bad year, like a down year in Castellanos wise. They gave him $100 million. He didn't really deliver. So they're gonna need him to pick it up, especially the first few months of the season. If when Bryce comes back, they're around 500. Bryce can be that spark and kind of push them to have a very strong second half of the year. But it's just offensively, I feel like the last half of the lineup is just, they don't have the depth that other teams have, right? Obviously, they can get away with it because the rotation is very good, right? They have 2 legit aces there at the top of the rotation. Alec Baum, he wasn't amazing, but the postseason experience, I loved seeing these young guys after having a magical run to see how they come back. A lot of times they just take a huge step up because the experience that you gain in the postseason is unlike any other. So that's going to be interesting. Obviously, they still got Brandon Mark there, but it's nothing. Bryce Harper and Rhys Hoskins are big losses, and I don't know. I love the fact that they added Gregory Soto as another hard lefty thrower. He's a stud there. Craig Kimbrell, I don't know what he does in the bullpen. I don't know. It's not 2012 anymore,
Yeah,
you know.
he pitches.
But you don't need him for the eighth or ninth inning either. So I don't know. I'll go under, slightly under. I do think they're probably gonna be in that wild card race for sure. I think they'll probably be around 86, kind of like similar to where they were last year. Like last year they won 87,
Right.
and I'm
Right.
okay with an 86, 87, 88 win. 90 wins. I mean, and I know it's only one or two games, but that's how it is, right? It's so tough.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like it's a rough start of the season for them. I think that's where I have them as under.
So to play a little devil's advocate, forgetting the predictions here, obviously I said over, you said under, but just looking at the Phillies season in the grand scheme of things, the good thing is for them with the expanded playoffs and all that, with their team, even struggling at the beginning, waiting for Harper to come back and all that, they're not going to be out of contention by any means. You know, come the All-Star break, all that, they're going to be fine. Bryce Harper's going to get rolling. If you're looking at it as a Phillies fan, just playoffs, forgetting over-unders and all that, they've got a really good chance. They've got a really good chance. They can be third on this list, just the way we said it, and do exactly what they did last year. So they're in a good spot.
And not only just the way we said it, just the way it was last year. And all you want is a chance into the tourney, right?
Right.
Because you want to be playing your best baseball in October. That's when you really want it. You know, again, Bryce Harper, he's good. He's a superstar. How long will it take him to kind of like find his groove again? He's going to have to come in and just come out firing as soon as he joins the squad. So I don't know. That's the only thing. But again, it's not like I don't have them out of the playoffs that I don't. And if they do make it, they're going to be, obviously they show that they're a very dangerous team. So I don't know. It's a very tough division, you know, and I think it would have been even tougher without the injuries. You know, if Bryce was there and Hoskins was there, Edwin Diaz was there, then we would have been like, I have no idea what's happening. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy the ride. Like, that's it. Yeah. So, but with the injuries, I think it separated Atlanta from the other two slightly, you know, but.
It does. No, it does. They've come out of this offseason kind of unscathed, right? Like, they had a great team. They went into the offseason, they came back, and they still have the same exact type of great team. So, yeah, once again, happy for Atlanta.
So, are you happy for Florida, though? So, the Florida Marlins, they won 69 games last year. They're over under 75.5. So, Vegas has them as a 6-win improvement in 2023. Cy Young winner, Sandy Alcantara, stud. Like, he's going to be Sandy, right? You have to expect. Like, when you throw 100 miles an hour with that movement, it's just tough to hit. What do you got for the Marlins?
Miami Marlins. I'm very optimistic on this division, apparently. I don't know how it's all going to work out. I'm putting myself in a corner.
Everyone's going over, huh?
No, not everyone. Not everyone. But the Marlins are. I do have the Marlins going over. Obviously, Vegas thinks they got a lot better, which makes it tough on this pick. They won 69 last year. They've got them at 79.5 this year. That's a really big jump. Now, we've been saying in previous episodes and all that, and I don't know, where you're going to lean on this, but we are pretty high on the Marlins. We expect them to be about 500, which is kind of where this number is, give or take, a couple games. I like the moves that the Marlins made. So their rotation, Sandy's my favorite pitcher to watch right now, to be honest. I think he's much-watched TV. Luzardo, good lefty. I think you still want to see a little bit more from him. I think his ceiling, a lot of people think, is still a little bit higher.
He's still 25. He's still 25 years old.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, if he makes a little bit of a leap this year and you pair him with Sandy, and then you've got Johnny Cueto behind them at number 3, who's been very, very solid, that's a very good 3, And, again, we're talking about a team with expectations to kind of be right around 500. I think that's the top 3 in the pitching rotation to do it. They got the batting champ, Luis Arias. His knock is, maybe he doesn't hit, for power and that sort of thing. But again, teams need that. Jazz Chisholm moving to center field. I love it. Jazz, we've said from the beginning now, starting with the MLB The Show cover and just what he brings to the game, the energy. He's starting to feel like he's on that superstar trajectory. They signed Segura. They got Gurriel at the last minute. I like what they're doing. I mean, there's no doubt about it in this division. They are fourth there, looking up at the other three, but it's not an embarrassing fourth.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's not an embarrassing. Is that you're stuck with a bunch of really, really good teams, and you're doing what you can to get better.
So are they the best fourth place? And I think we mentioned this in one of the other podcasts. Yeah. There might be the best fourth place team in the league, in the entire Major League Baseball. So, I do think that they're gonna go as far as the pitching takes them. They have a very deep rotation. They're gonna need the young guys to start getting some innings there. They added a couple bullpen arms in the trade with bringing in Park and Matt Barnes coming a down year because he plays for Boston. But I think. I'm going to take the over. I don't think they get to 500. I think probably a game or two above, like maybe above the over-under at 76.5, maybe 77, 78 wins. I just think they need power, right? Like, obviously, last year, down year, they had Sandy, and it was kind of like the highlight for them. But, Jazz has to be healthy. And if Jazz is healthy, he has 30-30 potential in him. And that would be power on that lineup. Jorge Soler has to bounce back and be able to get back to that 30-plus home run season. He hit, like 50 a couple years back. So what Soler can do power-wise. They got a lot of what it feels like a lot of slappers, right? With the Arraez, Wendell, Segura, a lot of singles guys. Get on base, but you're going to need the power guys to bring them in. And sometimes you're going to need to hit home runs to win some games. But the rotation is filthy. They added Johnny Cueto just to add to it, who's coming off a very good year with the White Sox. And I think it's only going to help the young pitching that they have in Edward Cabrera. They have this other young guy who's I think is going to start in the minor leagues. They got guys throwing changeups at 92 miles an hour. Like, that's not even fair. Like, that used to be fastballs 30 years ago, So they're throwing changeups at 92 miles an hour with movement. So, they got a lot of good live arms there, but I think offensively they can be a little bit better, and they are in a very tough division, and if they win 80 games, it wouldn't shock me, but they did have a little bit of a down year last year, but they got to be better. They're going to be better this year, I think.
Fun to watch team, right? Like, don't you kind of have your eye on the Marlins just to see where they end up through all this? I think they're a little bit of a fun team. I think Sandy Alcantara brings a lot of those eyes to the team as well. But then with Jazz, Arraez, just seeing what he does over there, I think it's an interesting team.
I think, going to the World Baseball Classic and what's it called? It's not Marlins Park anymore. Lone Depot, whatever.
Yeah.
It's Marlins Park. What's the best name? It's
still really be, rolls off the tongue.
Yes, Lone Depot is weird. But, I think Miami's it can be a fun sports town. And especially baseball. Little Havana's there. There's a lot of Cubans and a lot of Latinos that love baseball, but they're not gonna go watch if you're not good. And they have a lot of talent, and I don't think this year it's gonna see it. But being there in the World Baseball Classic, I understand a lot of people came from all over the world, but it's good. Like, it's a good stadium. It's Miami, like Florida, like people love that. So. I don't know. I want to see them succeed. I don't think it's going to be this year. I don't know if they're ever going to be better than the Braves, because the Braves are apparently going to be there for the rest of the time. But it's still they still have a lot of fun players, fun individual players to watch.
It feels like Marlins fans want, or maybe not even Marlins fans, people in Miami want the organization to kind of show them, like, this is going to be a quality product for years, because they're like, we've seen the 1 year World Series, and that was fun, but the next couple of years sucked. And I don't know that people put that much thought into it, but you're right. I mean, it is a sports town. When you look at other teams as well, Dolphins, Heat, you go a little further up, Tampa Bay Lightning, in hockey. It's a sports town. So I don't think you can really blame too much the fans, because they show up for other teams. So you got to figure out kind of a way to make that happen for you.
Jeter was there, and he was like, yeah, I'm out. They're not letting me do my thing. You got to be able to spend. You're going to have to be able to spend, and it doesn't seem like they're ready to be spending. And they have some young guys that are going to be costing a lot of money, and if you're going to let them walk, then it's going to be kind of like a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Oh, that was cute. That was cute. We'll wrap up we'll
wrap
it up with that. Sentences. Okay. So let's wrap it up with the Washington Nationals. And the Washington Nationals had a very bad year last year, and they won 55 games. Their over-under for this year is 59.5. Last year was the Juan Soto departure, right? Rebuilding year, right, for Washington. Tough year. Everyone is expecting it. But we're talking over-under. Let's just stay on the over-under, 59.5. Will they win? Will the Washington Nationals win 60 games this year?
No, they will not.
Okay.
I mean, they will not.
That will do it for episode 12. Thank you so much.
See ya. Thanks for coming out. I mean, I'm not even going to hate on the Nationals too much. Yeah. To be honest with you, they had to let Soto go, I think. You had to get what you got for him. And now you got to sit and wait and hope that a lot of those prospects you got in that trade and other prospects in your farm system come through. They won in 2019. Was it 2019? Yeah, 2019. And, they've kind of dismantled the team since then. And a lot of the players have gone out and
2020
continued.
Oh, no, 2020 was the Dodgers. Yeah, 2019. They were right before that. Yeah.
Yeah, so they pulled kind of a Marlins, right? Like we were talking about. They were very good. They won. And, hey, listen, they're an expansion organization. They went out. They won a World Series. I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but they're rebuilding now. Yeah. It is what it is, and they're going to kind of shuffle their way through this season. And, keep your eye on Joey Meneses, 30-year-old rookie last year. Had a great year, I guess.
Yeah, it's like they won the World Series, and they're like, okay, Rendon, you're out. Steven Strasburg is one of the saddest stories of in baseball.
Yeah.
We remember his debut, striking out 14,
the highs
electric.
Were
it was
so high
amazing.
With him.
And then he had a magical postseason run, and then he just hasn't been there. It's a rebuilding year. It's a rebuilding year. I have them going under as well. I don't necessarily think they are better this year. They're not going to be. They're not the worst team, but I don't think they're going to be better than last year. So I don't know. I think they got a couple pieces that they're counting on, right? They got that C.J. Abrams from San Diego in that trade. Mackenzie Gore, top prospect as well. Joey Meneses, he's a 30-year-old rookie, but I don't know. By the time you have a good team, he might be gone. He might be retired. They got Luis Garcia, very young. He looks kind of like a Juan Soto swing, very similar swing from the left side of the play, but they just don't have it. And it's just most divisions, I feel like most divisions except the AL East have this team, right? Like if you look around, the NL Central have the Reds. In the AL Central, you got the Tigers, maybe Royals. You got Oakland out in the West, and then in the AL West, and then National League West, you got the Rockies, right? So every division has that bad team. This is the bad team in the wrong division to be a bad team because this division is very good, but it's just baseball. Not every team is gonna be a contender. So.
Well, and being a bad team in this division just kicks you down even more. Right, because you don't even have a fighting chance. I mean, I think the fact that the Nationals are so bad is the reason the AL East is the best division in baseball and the NL East isn't. I think it comes down to that fifth spot. Red Sox are better than the Nationals.
Okay, you're
okay. I'm just doing too much right now. But yeah, I mean, like you said, that's what happens, and I've always been of the mindset. I've never seen the Mets win a World Series. And I understand it stinks if you're a Nationals fan right now, but
you have 2019.
Go put the DVD in the DVD player, watch the highlights, and just ignore this year. So I think really what you got to grade them on is how does the rebuilding go. You're allowed to rebuild. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes.
And if we're recording an episode in 365 days and we say Washington Nationals over under is at 73, it's like, whoa, you're trending in the right direction. So hopefully that happens for them. They have a lot of good fans. I mean, the playoffs, that postseason run was electric. It
was great.
It was good to watch, fun to watch. But that will do it for us. Episode 12. We're done with the predictions. Happy opening day. Do you want to walk us off? Anything else? Anything you're looking for opening day? Anything you wanna add before we close this out?
No, this is the best day tomorrow. It's baseball nonstop, and as much as like if you follow baseball, you kind of realistically know where your team's gonna fall. You know, if your team has a chance or not. It is opening day. If your team stinks, you can hope for the best, and it happens sometimes. So this is awesome. I'm excited to just get a full day of baseball in tomorrow and see what comes of it, and keep talking about it.
Yes, sir. We're gonna be still coming up with weekly episodes. As the season goes on. That first week wrap up is gonna be amazing. I cannot wait. That's gonna be our first week opening day. First week recap. It's gonna be amazing. I cannot.
Yep.
Looking forward to it. Again, like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow, rate it. You guys know all the things. Follow us on all social media. Baseball is intended. It's on the screen here on YouTube, and we will check it on the next one.